Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Order Up, the Final Order Cutoff show. Today, we're talking about comics that are on Final Order Cutoff this Monday, June 1st, and it is filled with some crazy books at PRH that are absolutely amazing, some phenomenal stuff, and then some of the most unique hot takes you're going to get from me out of Lunar Distribution. Again, these wonderful distributors bringing us some amazing publishers that are bringing us an interesting array of comics, and you're going to want to pay attention to this week's views on Order Up, Final Order Cutoff to hear it all, because there are some amazing things you're going to want to order from your local comic shop this Monday. So stay tuned after this opener, along with an incredibly phenomenal guest with one of the most amazing comics we could be talking about right after this. Stay tuned.
What's up, everybody? It's producer Kyle. Mathias is currently doing other things and taking care of his health. So I want to remind you guys that this is the FOC show, that we have a great guest, and that I didn't play the video I normally play because I want to remind you that this is your best chance to find out what's going to be in stores in 3 to 6 weeks from now. So you could do that by going to prhcomics.com or lunardistribution.com and checking those things out. We'll play the video in a second. But check with your comic shop, because there are other options. We talk about the two because they're the best two, but there are other places they order books from these days. And if your shop is using Universal Distribution, or they're ordering from Hachette, or they're ordering from some of these other book publishers, find out, because then you can go and get more information all over the internet about the things that, they might also have that we don't talk about. I just found out that my local comic shop just set up a distribution account with another prose book distributor. Right? So now I've got a whole other catalog that I get to look at every week so that I can get my books without pictures. It's a real pain in the neck, but I love it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mathias Lewis, and I'm here to talk to you about FOC, or Final Order Cutoff. It is the last chance that we, the comic retailers, have to finalize our orders for comics releasing roughly 3 to 6 weeks out from the Mondays we finalize our orders. We deal with this every Monday, but this is important to you, the consumer, because it is the perfect time to reach out to your local comic shop if you want any specific or guaranteed items. If you want the Jim Lee or Dan Mora covers of Justice League Unlimited, reach out to your local comic shop and let us know. If you want the new issue of Lilo and Stitch, this is the perfect time to tell us. Because as long as you can get us the orders before Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that will give your local comic shop retailer enough time to finalize that order, adding in whatever it is you want, so they can guarantee when it releases, we have a copy set aside waiting for you. So, always reach out to your local comic shop before 6 p.m. on Mondays with the comics you want. The sooner, the better, to guarantee they're waiting for you.
So while Mathias chugs some water and gets back into his seat, I want to remind you guys about this place. This is lunardistribution.com. You can head over to lunardistribution.com to find out all of the books that lunardistribution.com is distributing to people. So you just scroll down past the publisher catalogs, which these are great to read, by the way. They're super fun. And these previews, which again, great to read, because then you can get a little preview of what's in the books. So this upcoming FOC, make sure you choose the date closest to today being the 29th. This is 6/1, so this is Monday. And you can scroll through all of these little dots and see all of the books that are available for order on Monday. You also can scroll down just a little bit and look at what's coming out this week here from Lunar as well. So that's something we don't talk about all that often. And then you could come over here to prhcomics.com, and right there at the top is their FOC section on prhcomics.com. Click on that, go in, choose A to Z. Matthias says Z because he has to be fancy, but we like the letter Z here, even though there are hardly ever any books under Z, and except for this week when there's like 3. It's wild. So sort A to Z, and you can look at all the different things, including a lot of my picks, which are prose novels. So make sure you check those out as well. So now that I've talked and rambled and said this all with way more words than Matthias usually does, because I'm stalling, I'm going to go ahead and bring him on. We can get into actually doing the show.
Nothing like having that moment between you doing the cold open and you going live where you remember you're live and you almost physically die. But all right, thank you so much for
You mean
for
every
covering
day
for me
I come to
my
work?
near death, Kyle. All right. Woo.
Yeah, that's every day I come to work, bro. Like, don't even worry about it.
All right. So let's start it off with Penguin Random Houses. That's where Kyle did. I can honestly tell you, this is an interesting week because I've never had so much difficulty putting together our top 10 where I was going through Lunar Distribution and I'm like, I just can't find items for the top 10. And then I hit Penguin Random House and everything deserves to be in the top 10. So it'll be interesting because a publisher pointed out to me, and it's funny because it was a Lunar distributed publisher who pointed out to me after last week's show, man, your top 10 last week was like mainly Lunar. And I'm like, look, that's just how it goes sometimes. And then this week, I'm like, this week's going to be mainly Penguin Random House. But thank you guys all for tuning in. We're going to be talking about the books that are on FOC this Monday, June 1st. I've got some fun ones. I thank Kyle for helping as always. And we're going to dive directly into it with some fun books.
I don't know that I was helpful. I'm just going to say it anyway.
You're helpful because you're entertaining. It's why people, not only are you an incredible producer for a vast majority of the shows that are offered here on the EXP, you're just a fun head to have talking.
You should have heard my live read for our new exclusive that I did last night. It was super helpful.
Oh, okay. We're going to come back to that because we'll talk about that at the end of the show, about the other shows and our new exclusives. But let's start it off in the A's, of course, with Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man 32, continuing Joe Kelly's incredible run on ASM. And, well, we're going to have some Vulture fun as the main villain. The thing that intrigues me is this is going to start the backup of Disability Pride Month. And I hate to exclaim my ignorance. I guess that also lines up with traditional Pride Month in June. But we have a great cover for the Marvel Voices. There's actually 2 covers on ASM 32 that are going to focus on disabled characters. And we're going to start getting backups showing pro-disability with great disabled characters. I believe this one is going to start off with
that's Misty Knight there on the cover.
Misty Knight, yeah, Misty Knight, who is sans one arm and still showing that even with disabilities, you can be proud and amazing heroes in the Marvel Universe. You'd see a very large array right there with Hawkeye, with Echo, Daredevil, and more. So I'm excited to read these backups. I know that I have a few customers at my specific shop who have a range of disabilities, and they're very excited to see these characters spotlighted and, you know, to once again prove that just because you have a disability, it doesn't limit your abilities to be an amazing human being.
I would argue that Misty Knight's new arm is better than her original arm.
I'm not going to lie. I like to say that Matt Murdock's vision beats that of my slowly dying vision. Wow, my dog is suddenly cutting.
Like, there's a level of, you know, I'm not disability shaming anyone, but you listen, Misty Knight definitely got an upgrade there.
Yes. I mean, it's the fun of knowing somebody who has that level of money in the Marvel Universe.
It's true.
Okay, you got to go somewhere. All right, let's continue on with the Marvel Universe. Let's talk about a new collection. I love these new Marvel Premiere collections because as we're getting to the point where the Epic collections are reaching an MSRP of $55, look, for the contents they contain, that's a reasonable price. But I much prefer, in this era of DC compacts being $10, these $15 Marvel Premiere collections. The newest ones being Jonathan Hickman focused, with Avengers Secret Wars, which is going to have the entirety of his and Esad Ripik's unbelievable Secret War sign. But we're also going to be seeing a Avengers
Time runs out.
Time Runs Out, which leads in to the Secret Wars. So 2 Hickman trades, $15 a piece. And I mean, look, the Marvel Premiere collections seem to love Hickman. We've had his Fantastic Four run in there and a few others. I'm not going to complain. $15 Hickman collections, those are easy to sell. They're up there with these wonderful DC compacts.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer Mike Mayhew's art on Time Runs Out to Esad Ribik's and Secret Wars, but you got to buy them both. Like, this is one big storyline.
Yeah. A lot of great DC books that you'll see us talk about when they eventually end up on Lunar's distribution, but you can always get a look early, and it doesn't hurt to tell your local comic shop you want them soon. Then, if for any reason you didn't tell your comic shop that you wanted Berserker, The Light Draws Beneath, we have a second printing with, hands down, the weirdest cover to ever feature Keanu Reeves. Just
0 out of 10, do not like.
But a unique second printing cover, nevertheless. I think this is going to, definitely get some sales, even from people who already have the first printing, because that is a cover right there.
Greg, why is he not wearing pants?
All right. Popping over to Marvel again, because look, Marvel may not be dominating PRH, but it has some big ones to talk about. We have a brand new one-shot tying into a series of one-shots called The Challenges of Doom. This one focuses on Major Doom antagonist, that's a weird thing to say, Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards. Because look, if there's anyone that the Latvian leader hates more, it is the guy currently sitting at the lead of the Baxter building, Mr. Fantastic. This should be a good one. It's not like we have any lack of stories that are Mr. Fantastic versus Dr. Doom, but Al Ewing and Mike Henderson taking a one-shot to try and solidify one of those tales, I think they're going to give us an epic battle.
I said on the show last night, stop trying to make Doom fetch. Like, I'm a little over it. I love Dr. Doom, but everything for the last year and a half has been Dr. Doom.
It has.
There are other villains, guys.
Here's the big one, though. I really want to point this out. This throws me out. Reed Richards has to have a dozen PhDs. Why is he Mr. Fantastic? Well, we have Dr. Doom.
Well, because every supervillain has an advanced degree. It's like a requirement. It's a prerequisite. If you want to be a supervillain, you have to get your doctorate in something. Even Glue has a doctorate.
Stephen Strange is Doctor Strange. No Dr. Fantastic?
Also, that sounds dumb.
Dr. Fantastic sounds dumb. Okay.
I mean, it really does. Dr. Fantastic. It sounds like somebody who's going to get arrested for like running an illegal Botox ring. Like, Dr. Fantastic just sounds bad.
Wrong. I would expect that to be a billboard I see in Los Angeles that would lead into, like the beauty.
Get your ketamine here, kids. Anyway,
that's how we get removed from YouTube. All right. Talk to me about something a little bit lighter, Suki Stackhouse.
Somehow this is lighter. Guys, this is my pros pick of the week. It's very early in the show, put out by Berkeley and Ace, who is Ace, publishes, the wonderful, the inimitable Dungeon Crawler Karma. This is a Suki Stackhouse mystery from the makers of True Blood. So this is the first novel in the Suki Stackhouse series, which brought you True Blood. This inspired the True Blood series. Suki Stackhouse is just a small-time cocktail waitress in a small town of Bonton, Louisiana. She's quiet. She doesn't get out much. She tends to mind her own business, except when it comes to her disability. Sookie can read minds. Well, here you go. So again, if you're a comic shop watching this and you're like, what can I sell that people are going to read that aren't comic books? Well, you've got Dungeon Crawler Carl, which is ace, but then True Blood. Like, I haven't watched the show and I know that this is a home run.
I mean, I used to watch the show every week 20 years ago. I love this to no end, but I hate to say, I never liked the covers of the original novels. I love the novels,
Right.
and the novels are quite different from True Blood. If you love the True Blood TV series on HBO, this is kind of like an Elseworlds What If, even though it's the original form of what we saw on the show. The show was great. I loved it. It deserved so much attention. The books are equally great, but different. You know, you get different character paths. You definitely get different concepts. But I'm going to scroll down. This is the original cover I'm used to with Dead Until Dark, the very first of Charlene's Sookie Stackhouse novels. I was never a huge fan of them. I love this new design. This makes me want to repurchase it and definitely put it in the hands of other people, because there are characters like Lafayette that I adored in the TV series. They didn't get to play as big of a role. And I agree with Danny there. Team Eric all the way.
Well, and you know it's hysterical that like this would be on FOC this week. I'm scrolling through TikTok and I'm watching a clip from True Blood, and it's a Lafayette clip. It's Lafayette beating some people up in the diner, right? Like, who didn't like their food. Like, it's a perfect timing. This is still as relevant as it is when the show was on, as relevant as it was when the books originally released. This is another great sideline that has naturally built-in buyers in your local comic shop. So if you're a fan watching this, call your local comic shop and be like, hey, you got to buy this book, but also you got to order this book because I want it. But also, like, if you're a shop watching this, there are people coming into your store who are already fans of this thing who will just buy it because it's there.
No. I'm honestly shocked we never got a really solid True Blood or Sookie Stackhouse comic series. We got a little bit, but yeah, it just was, it's funny because I actually just got my very first Charlene Harris autograph on a Dynamite comic recently. But yeah, I'm kind of shocked we never had a good ongoing True Blood or Sookie Stackhouse comic series. Maybe that's something we could see. Maybe that could be something coming up from Dynamite or Boom or one of these other great publishers. All right. So moving through, I told myself I wasn't going to come back to this, but I just had to, point out, did you hear about Mimi Green? We talked about it recently. Did you pick it up this Wednesday when it released? I'm very intrigued to see where issue number 2 goes, and now you can get it on order on FOC. But this is, again, one of those ones where I think if you want to see where did you hear about Mimi Green on your comic shop, in your pull list, you need to let your local comic shop know that you want it. Because this is a very interesting and perhaps controversial topic of a comic series. So it might not be something your average comic shop is going to stock heavily. So definitely let your comic shop know if it's something you want. But one we know that you want. Go ahead.
I'm hearing from a lot of comic shops that they didn't understand it, that this book didn't make sense to them, that, hey, why, what? So, in fact, I was on a show last night where I had to kind of chime in and give my 2 cents on this book, about it being an allegory as opposed to being as direct as people are thinking it is. So making sure you're ordering first prints, making sure you're ordering number 2, making sure you're ordering these things is going to keep it on the shelves if you want it. Because I have a feeling that a lot of shops are going to hear from people that they didn't get it and are therefore not going to jump on it.
Well, and I got to say, another fun thing to point out, I can do this, is, I own a comic shop. I was selling the book on the Wednesday release. Another comic shop in Southern California was hosting a signing with the creator, and a friend went and got me a signed copy, got it signed and personalized of Did You Hear About Mimi Green? So I have one to Mathias from the creators. And it's that reminder of the cool thing is you can support your local comic shop, place orders in there, and support other shops that do cool events and all that. There is a wonderful community to comics. And this is a book I get to bring up the topic, even though it's not directly related to this comic, where, you know, support your local comic shop, order from them. But, you know, when you see a cool exclusive, when there's a signing somewhere else, you can support that. This is a wonderful community where we can involve ourselves in many ways. And we might be talking about something along those lines again in future weeks, but it is a really wonderful thing I love that you don't get to always see in other communities, industries, and all that. That, you know, like there's ways to enjoy this all in different realms and in different places while still supporting, you know, your local place and somebody
Can I
else's.
tell you a fun story about that?
Go for it.
So many local comic shops ordered me the graphic novel of Dungeon Crawler Carl. Without me asking them to, by the way, they just knew I would want it. That I wound up with multiple copies. And so every little free library between here and Traverse City, Michigan that I stopped at now has a copy of the graphic novel of Dungeon Crawler Carl because I wound up with like 30. So it's a great thing when shops know their customers and they know what they're into, but when you can support multiple shops and multiple shops are supporting other people.
Yeah.
You know, I went into my local shop and they're like, oh, I know that the dude in Traverse City got you a signed copy. So here's a non-signed copy. And, you know, like working together on these things. So it's always great when you can communicate that stuff and when shops know. And again, as a buyer, you let your shop know, hey, this thing's happening over here. Do you want a signed copy of it? I'll grab you one. That kind of stuff.
You know, on that note, it's one of those things I used to always emphasize about 16 to 18 years ago. And it might still be exactly this way. In fact, I hope it is. But when I used to regularly go to Las Vegas, the comics community there was so amazing. The retailers that were all very much friendly with one another and the customers all were, where you had customers who had, oh, I have my DC books on, you know, hold at Maximum Comics and my Marvel books on hold over at Comic Oasis and my indie books at Alternate Reality. And they, you know, these people would go from shop to shop and support all of the shops in their community. And it was just this open, loving thing. Like, I always thought that was like a comic utopia, that you just had so many great shops in such a condensed area and it didn't cause a problem. No one was really stepping on anybody's toes. Like, it's a dream world that we can't all live in, but I truly exist with the idea of that, you know, the high tide rises us all in this comic industry. And the way you get that is supporting your local shop, other local shops, other great creators, other great publishers and distributors. So we're ranting way off topic at this point, but just a fun moment of just realizing I love the comics community. I love all the great retailers out there. I love all the amazing publishers and creators and fans, influencers, podcasters. Like, you know, comics is a wonderful community. Yes, there we go. Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about the book that I know everyone is going to want to order and every comic shop should be stocking up on because it
Dinosaur
features
Sanctuary?
oh yes, there it is, Dinosaur Sanctuary. Actually, a great manga, but it features one of the greatest animated films of all time, Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. All right, I'm just gonna, you know, show my hand here. We're gonna have creator Joshua Pruitt on in about 30 minutes, so we'll talk more on this book later. But I really quickly just wanted to show it off as it is alphabetically next in our wall. So we'll come back around on this one. So let's talk about a book that's been out for quite some time. Fence. As we are coming up on Pride Month, this is a great book to talk about because this is, I think, one of the most underrated comic series from Boom Studios. Everyone can talk about the love of Berserker and Something is Killing the Children. Fence is a queer sports manga that is beautifully done. If you know anyone who ever loved sports manga, and mind you, this is not actually a manga. This is not Japanese creators. It's not a Japanese release, nor is it in the language of Japanese. But it hits that genre so amazingly well. I compare it mainly to sports manga, whether you're a fan, Blue Lock, Eye Shield 21, you know, countless titles. This is great because it's about a young boy who is into fencing and the not only interesting and amazing sport that I was unaware of going into it, but the relationships he has. This is brilliant. So for $19, you're going to get the first 12 issues of Fence. and you're going to get that beautiful sprayed edges, which you don't get to see yet on graphic novels a lot. Like, this is becoming huge in the prose part of the industry, but now I love getting to see this on a graphic novel.
Mhm. I mean, guys, this is heated rivalry with swords.
It is heated rivalry with swords rather than sticks, and you know what?
Even though they're
Sometimes,
not called, even though they're not called swords, they're called foils, and you don't stab people, you touch them, which is even weirder when you consider the topic of this book. But anyway,
yeah,
my 11-year-old nephew is into fencing, and so I've had to learn all of the terminology. But then I'm like, dude, you do know I've read this manga called Fence, right? Or this book called Fence, right? And he's like, wait, what's that about? And I'm like, you may be a little too young for the content yet, but
yeah.
it's
I
it's
mean, I would put it as
it's
about a
heated
teenage.
rivalry with swords.
Yeah, but yes, that is the best example. If you were a fan of heated rivalry, and maybe hockey isn't your thing, Fence is a must read. This is definitely something that if it's not your thing, you likely know somebody who would love it. So give it a shot. It is a very fun way to dive into something new. And I think it's, again, one of the most underrated comics coming out from Boom Studios. Who's doing amazing things like Fall of House of Slaughter as we get closer and closer to issue 50 of Something is Killing the Children. All right. Quick shout out to Fantastic Four fans with the Jim Lee era of Fantastic Four from the 90s finally getting an epic collection. And then for kids who aren't yet ready for Fence, maybe you check out Fart Boy and Reeky Dog. Seems like the type of thing Kyle would have loved at 10 years old.
What do you mean at 10 years old? It's the kind of thing that Kyle would love at 38 years old.
There it is. All right, now a big one. We talked about Jonathan Hickman and his mini Marvel works, but a name that you should associate with Hickman, but likely haven't heard from in a while, is Nick Spencer. And there's a reason. It's not a lack of work that Nick Spencer has been doing, but it's a lack of big name superhero work over at Marvel. Because Nick and Hickman have been working with a number of other incredible creators on their own Substack-based comic series, 3 Worlds, 3 Moons. And we are finally about to get physical form to their incredible comic universe that they have been developing in Foundations. Foundations is going to be picked up over at Dark Horse. It's going to be in a Prestige Plus or magazine size format, which is perhaps the only thing I'm disappointed about because I would love traditional comic form. But this is going to be the start of an epic new universe. If you've ever loved any of the big worlds that Hickman has created or the amazing characters that Nick Spencer's have masterfully penned, this combination of the two incredible writers with Mike Del Mundo and Mike Huddleston artwork is going to be like nothing else. I have been waiting for this for, I don't know, almost 2 years. And this is exciting. Kyle and I had the opportunity, I think, to talk to Hickman back in February. I know I did. I don't know if you got a chance to.
I did, but I mainly was just busting his chops.
Yeah, but this is going to be amazing. A one-shot that launches a new universe and a series of new comics from Dark Horse. For some of you who are already subscribed to Hickman and Spencer's Substack, this is not going to be anything new, but having it physically will be worthwhile.
Do you remember what the 3W, 3M stood for? It's something in
3 Worlds, 3
mics.
Moons. 3 Worlds, 3 Moons.
You sure it's not 3 writers and 3 mics?
It's probably not too far off. I mean, yeah, because I think that does fit. Mike Del Mundo, Mike Huddleston. Who's the third Mike? I know that there is a third Mike.
I don't know. I think that was the busting of the chops that I had to do. I go, you got to hire another Mike, man.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. All right. If somehow you don't have any Marvel and DC Spider-Man, Superman left, you're not me because I clearly over-ordered on the book. But we are getting a third printing for anyone who is looking for this book or just a new cover. And look, that is a beautiful new cover by Alessandro Capuccio, I believe. I'm going to look to Kyle like he can, pronounce it far better than I can because I assume he can.
Cappuccino.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But beautiful new cover, amazing stories. Jeff Johns, Brad Metzer, come on. Doesn't get better than that. It makes me just wish that Ghost Machine had a first Ghost in my hands already. But nevertheless, I'll take, a little bit of Superman and Spider-Man by these two all-star legendary giants in the comic world of writing. Not to mention a unbelievable 72 pages of astonishing artwork and brilliant writing from other talented all-stars in the industry. So, likely already have it, but if you don't, or you need a new cover, grab that third printing. Then, this is an interesting one from IDW Dark, Operation Iron Coffin. You see, because Dracula sometimes needs redemption as well. And his redemption is to be dropped by the British military into war-torn World War II Germany onto an iron train filled with Nazis, monsters, and worse to put ahead and take off the head, perhaps, of the Nazi regime's newest way to winning the war. This is like what are the movies we always get where one person goes into like a tower or a building and has to fight their way to the top? I know there's a whole name for that genre. Somebody's going to nail it, but it is one of those as Dracula fights his way through a train, killing monsters, fighting Nazis, beheading vampires. It's just dumb action, and it has my attention.
Right. I was just thinking this is that Brad Pitt movie, the Bullet Train movie, except interesting.
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't mind recasting, or casting a live action Operation Iron Coffin with Brad Pitt as Dracula. I'd be into that.
David Desmalchin as Dracula.
A million times better, you're right. I want to see David Desmalchin in an action film.
I think he'd be great in this. Boom. I'll write it.
There it is. I like it. Next up, Punisher gets a new villain in the new storyline from Punisher from Benjamin Percy and Jose Suarez. Issue 6 starts the long bullet. I mean, need we say more? This is a year of Punisher. From his special to his appearances in Daredevil and the upcoming Spider-Man film. He's had so many new #1 series, and we'll have another new #1 for him later. But the Punisher, new storyline right there.
For me, the covers on this one are the B cover, which is the Clayton Crane Nullbuster variant, but also there's a spoiler variant that's the Justin Mason on this one. So if you're looking at PRH and you want to check those out, those are the two I ordered of this book, just because that first appearance variant is so cool.
Absolutely. All right. The alphabet on my version of PRH is completely out of order, which is the great thing that I have tabs. But I want to show the other big one that I didn't load up is Punisher versus the Amazing Spider-Man. Now, we all know that Punisher first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man 129. Now we get to have Spider-Man appear in a Punisher book written by Dan Abnett, one of the greatest writers in both comics and prose. Definitely got a John Barenthal look to this version of the Punisher that Jonas Scharf did on the cover. But this is going to be a retrospective story set in that early time period of Jerry Conway's Amazing Spider-Man, as we get a little bit more of a look of what those early relationships were between Peter and Frank. Some absolutely awesome covers. I love the twist on the classic 129 cover right here, as Dave Johnson gives us a fun foil version. But
that Whilce Portacio, though.
Oh, yes, the Portacio is brilliant, too. I mean, all of these are great. And all of them have the right nods to classic moments with Punisher and Spider-Man. All right. Speaking of great nods to classic things, I have been loving the recent Rocketeer comics IDW has been doing. John Layman's stories have been amazing. But Gabriel Hardman has me hooked with this concept of the Rocketeer infiltrator. Betty, our beloved love of our protagonist, is accused of being a Nazi sympathizer. How can that be? Well, thanks to a great British military intelligence plan, we're sending Betty and the Rocketeer over to Nazi Germany to infiltrate the Nazi regime as Betty stars in a German film. And in doing so, it will give Rocketeer opportunity to destroy a super weapon that has been devastating the Allies in World War II. This is like everything I want in a Rocketeer story, and I cannot wait. You have Gabriel Hardman, who is a master artist, storyteller, and storyboard artist on some of my favorite films. Dean Kotz doing the incredible interiors. I wanted to show off Dean's cover here because that gives you an idea of what the interiors are going to look like. But there are some amazing covers on this. Everything from reused Dave Stevens artwork, Joe Quinones doing stunning pieces, and Gabriel Hardman himself doing a brilliant piece. This is just going to be awesome. And honestly, we can't have enough Rocketeer. I am so glad for this revival of Rocketeer that we have been facing over this past year.
By the way, the secret weapon they defeat is the libido of all the German men who think they can get with Betty and realize they can't.
There it is. All right. Looking for a fun book for just about everyone? This is great for your young reader crowd, your manga crowd, or your adult comic fan. School Bus Graveyard is a popular webtoon series by the creator known simply as Red. And it deals with a young girl who is, all right, I gotta refresh my memory on this. Trying to survive. It says monstrous phantoms, but basically, the plot is a group of kids on a school bus that are stranded and fighting paranormal evil. I love the comparative that this is great for fans of Stranger Things or Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but this is really great as just a honestly YA dystopian survival. I guess dystopian is not right. Paranormal survivor type of story. It's got amazing character designs. It's got brilliant personality to all of them. And you care in an almost battle royale-esque tone about everyone. And will they hold on and be able to get back home?
So the thing to know about this is that it's not any different than actually having ridden the bus to middle school. But, it's the same amount of paranormal and horror and all of that stuff because anybody who's ever ridden the bus to middle school knows it's pretty awful. So, again, this really does reach all ages. I read it a little bit on the webtoon, and then I found out it was coming out in a published volume, so I stopped. But listen, trigger warning if you had bad bus experiences, because this is the ultimate bad bus experience.
There it is. All right.
What's our next tab, Matthias?
Sonic fans, it's the 35th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog, which is a crazy thought because I remember the very first video game coming out, and I don't want to believe that was 35 years ago. But we are returning to the classic cartoon era of Sonic the Hedgehog with this awesome one-shot by Yasmin Atta. If you were a fan of the chili dog eating Sonic the Hedgehog of the 90s cartoons and comics from Archie, this is a great way to return to it. Not to mention, we're also going to get a 30th anniversary hardcover of everyone's favorite echidna. I think I said that right. Knuckles. So you get the 35th anniversary of Sonic and the 30th anniversary of Knuckles, all at very affordable. The 35th anniversary Sonic is going to be a thick comic at $7.99. The Knuckles anniversary special is going to be a hardcover at $9.99.
Knuckles is the worst.
What do you mean Knuckles is the worst?
Knuckles is the worst. It's Sonic and Tails and nobody else.
Ow. Ow. I'm calling Idris Elba up. This is
I said
painful.
what I said.
All right. Well then, I'm sure you will have all sorts of equally strong opinions about perhaps one of the most iconic figures of the Clone War era through Rogue One, Saw Gerrera. Saw Gerrera was a very controversial figure in his many appearances in Clone Wars, Rebels, and of course the movie Rogue One. And now he gets a brand new one shot by Mark Bernardine and Gabriel Guzman, perhaps enlightening us more on how this revolutionary rebel helped shape what basically would be the overthrow of the Galactic Empire.
I will say to this what I've been saying since Mando and Grogu came out. Star Wars fans hating Star Wars since Star Wars has existed. This was one of the greatest characters that people just decided they didn't care for. Like, so many people were just like, why? Well, because shut up. He was great. So anything we get more with Saw is great. Um, and Star Wars fans, if you don't like it, try Star Trek, I guess, because get out of my fandom. I'm very excited for this book.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't get enough stories about extremist revolutionaries. Like, we always want the protagonist that is just covered in gold and goodness, the villain to be evil. But I do think it's an amazing tale, especially in an era where we are trying to humanize our villains more, to villainize our heroes with an extremist who understands you got to get your hands dirty. And I mean, we have seen some really dark tales, whether it's in the recent Andor series or beyond with Saw Gerrera, that have just made him crazier and darker. But in the same, that makes him, in my opinion, so much more of an interesting character. And while he may not be the character you're ever rooting for, he's a story that I think is enlightening to read. So I'm
Yeah, I
excited
mean,
about this.
not everybody is Luke Skywalker, man. Like, get over it. There are
Yeah.
much more interesting characters than that. He's pretty boring when you think about it. So, bringing in a character that is a little bit more gray, like your Mandalorian, or like uh, 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 when they brought in, I'm gonna blank on his name, the black-haired Wookiee.
Black Chrysanthemum. Oh, actually, they dropped
Yeah,
the first part. It's just Chrysanthemum.
right. Like, they brought in these more interesting characters that have more depth, and Star Wars fans were like, "We don't care. We want Luke Skywalker." Well, guess what? If you want that, go away. These characters are cooler.
All right. This is a fun topic I've been waiting on. This is going to get a lengthy rant. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 300, aka issue 20. But when you combine all the turtles, we hit issue 300 with the July 22nd week of Comic Con, or week before Comic Con, release of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I actually had a good 30-minute conversation with the head of sales of IDW this morning. He called me up to make sure I gave you all the correct details on this. So, first off, this is going to have a collection of incredible creators on it, including the return of Tom Waltz and Kevin Eastman, who did nearly 100 issues of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as well as the incredible epic of Last Ronin. You're going to get a new cover by Eastman and Laird, which is big. You're going to get a ton of incredible creators by top artists and new stories, including a tale that goes through the history of the Turtles with Renee. I am beyond excited about this, but the part I am excited the most about is the blind bag. And let me load up the blind bag here so we can properly talk about it. And of course, I'm not going to see the blind bag button here. So we're going to drag it back over here. And where is the blind bag? There.
Right
It's right
there.
here. Oh, it's the red one. I should have looked. The blind bag. So blind bag is cover F. It is the same price as any of the regular covers. But this blind bag, in my opinion, is special. And I talked with Ryan in great depth, and it was interesting to hear I and another retailer helped influence this. I'm sure it was hardly just me. But these will not have the regular covers in the blind bags. This is a fun thing to get in addition. So I want to point out, if you want a specific trade dress cover, like the Freddie Williams, Frank Miller, or J. Scott Campbell cover, order those from your local comic shop. Let your local comic shop know. The blind bag has an interesting twist because the blind bag will only have covers unique to the blind bag and the ratios. So you can still get a 1 in 250 or a 1 in 500 ratio in the blind bag as a special treat at that cover price of $6.99. But you're not going to get an A or a B cover. Instead, you're going to get the full art or virgin artwork of those covers with some added bonuses. There will be some exclusive covers to the blind bags by Ferreira, Santuloco, and Ito. And I can tell you perhaps first that the Ferreira variant is roughly a 1 in 25 in the blind bags. The Santuloco cover is 1 in 50 in the blind bags. And the Ito cover is 1 in 100. The one I'm super excited about at a 1 in 250 ratio in the blind bags. But it's a blind bag. You don't know. It could be the one copy you get is the pencils to the J. Scott Campbell cover. So not only are we going to get some covers exclusive to the blind bags, all of the covers that we already adore that you can see down here have virgin full art options in there. You can get the ratio variants in there without having to pay the ratio extremes, meaning you can get that Stan Sakai 1 in 50. And there are exclusive items to the blind bags. This has me beyond excited. So the only thing you're really not going to get in the blind bags that make it, enticing is that 1 in 1,000. And here's the fun thing. The 1 in 1,000s are going to come a little bit later than July 22nd, as they're going to be shipped direct to your store from IDW. But you get that version of the Peter and Kevin cover with the classic red bandanas on all the turtles. And it will come signed and graded by Kevin Eastman. Now, Ryan has promised me this is going to be this is the only way to get it. He is making sure that the print run is tight, which is the reason why it's going to ship a little bit later. Every single one of these copies, for the most part, is going to be graded, signed by Kevin. It is going to be awesome. I am really jazzed with how the folks at IDW put together this book. I think that TMNT issue 300/20 is going to be great on a run that's already had 18 issues of amazing so far. I cannot wait for issue 19. And look at these cover artists: Frank Miller, Peter Laird, Kevin Eastman, Dooney, Sakai. This is just, Freddie Williams. This is all great stuff. But yeah, these are blind bags done right. $6.99. You're not going to get repeats of what you choose as an open order cover. I mean, Kyle, you're a Turtles fan. What are your thoughts on it? Did they do it right, or where's your opinion?
There's only one cover here I care about.
Oh, I'm curious.
It's the Eastman and Laird. As a Turtles fan, is it great to see a J. Scott Campbell? Sure, but what does he have to do with the Turtles? I like the Stan Sakai because he's done Turtles covers in the past. I like the Freddie Williams because he's done Turtles covers in the past. But in my opinion, the blind bag is the way companies should do blind bags. So I'm going to give them credit where credit is due there. But for someone who's going to wind up ordering as many copies of this book as I'm going to wind up ordering, there isn't a lot there for the 30 and 40-year Turtles fans.
You didn't like the Dooney cover?
Not really. I mean, that's the problem, is that it's a little frustrating when you have this long with a fandom, and the 300th issue comes along and they sort of nod at you without really acknowledging you. That said, my orders are still going to be my orders are
Chris Allen,
My
Frank
order,
Fosco, Jim Lawson, and Dan Duncan himself.
sure, there's some of them that are great. Like, don't get me wrong, but this could have been very much more a nod to those long-term fans, especially with the way they're doing the blind bag, right?
Yeah.
Those covers, those names. It would have been cool to see a Simon Bisley. It would have been cool to see a lot of those old Mirage guys included in that blind bag, right? Because you don't have to do a lot of them. There could have been a way to do that. That said, my orders on this are still going to be in the four figures. Don't misunderstand this. It's still a ridiculously high order. But for me, and this is just me talking, I feel like there was some meat that was never put on the bone to begin with.
All right. Interesting. All right. Well, moving on, another IDW title. IDW is doing really great. I have the head of images sales currently calling me. I need to tell him I am live on air. There we go.
You should answer it and put it on speakerphone, and we can all ask Alex questions.
No, he will not be happy with that. Another great IDW book on FOC, Twilight Zone. Junie Baugh, who's been
much
doing
excited for this one.
Covers. What?
I'm much excited for this one.
Yeah. Junie Baugh, who's been doing a lot of the amazing covers, is now doing an entire story written and drawn by himself in the Twilight Zone about a figure who has been in the Twilight Zone longer than most others. An interesting idea of a repetitive day story that is far from a Groundhog's Day tale. This one is definitely intriguing. I feel Twilight Zone has been an amazing series, but the last few issues have just been amplifying it more and more. And Junie Baugh doing this tale about a man just trying to save his village or city is going to be a dark and haunting piece that truly brings us back to some of the best episodes of the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, Junie Baugh's great.
Yeah.
No. Like I Junie Baugh. Like,
yeah.
At some point, I will have to. I will be able to stop explaining to people the genius of Junie Baugh.
All right. So let's talk about another great prose story. You want to talk a little bit about Weird Shadows Over Innsmouth?
Yeah, I mean, Weird Shadows Over Innsmouth is a collected anthology story that Stephen Jones put together. It features, as you see on the cover, Lovecraft, Kim Newman, Brian Lumley, Ramsey Campbell, John Glaspie, Michael Marshall Smith, Caitlin Kiernan. There's a lot of great writers who have contributed to this. But it's this idea of sort of new or sort of different takes of Lovecraft stories. So, the draft of The Shadows Over Innsmouth is an unfinished story by H.P. Lovecraft, and these are some of those people who would call themselves Lovecraftian acolytes, taking on some of his other stories and adding to them and finishing his unfinished work. So, H.P. Lovecraft is a kind of a questionable character in today's day and age, but you can't argue what the man did for sci-fi or fantasy in that regard. So to have other people taking on his stories and putting their spin on them while allowing for the publication of a story that he never himself finished is a great kind of way to take little bite-sized chunks of crazy. Because if you can understand what the great elder one is saying, you have bigger problems than a book. So again, I like whenever H.P. Lovecraft stories are broken down into small bits. It's why I love when Dynamite has done some of the H.P. Lovecraft comics. Right, you some of his work is so dense and so hard to read because of the eldritch horror of it all, that when you could take it in small bits and absorb and uh, uh, consume it, it becomes more fun again. And that's what I think makes this an interesting volume, is that it is small little sections, small little chunks of Lovecraft, each by a different writer, each with their own tone, each with their own voice, but all still in that original voice of Lovecraft. So very
Yeah,
excited for this, as it, again, it'll be a great way to lean into the spookiness of it all without fully seeing, your eyes roll back in your head and the insanity overtake you.
absolutely. I mean, and, it's edited and put together by Stephen Jones, who has won
Mhm.
countless Hugo and Bram Stoker awards for his horror anthologies. So I know this will be curated very, very well. And, I mean, it gives me the vibe of, the content and, rags, I say in the most loving way, that H.P. Lovecraft was originally published in. I mean, you're getting a cool thematic anthology.
And by the way, the cover we're looking at here is uh I'm trying to remember if this is the hardcover.
Uh,
But this is one cover. There is a secondary cover that is creepy as hell if you're into if you're into books that will give you nightmares.
yeah. Oh, wow. There is a couple
Yeah.
over this. Yeah. So very interesting. So yeah, let your local comic shop know which one, or your local bookstore perhaps, because maybe we're doing this
Mhm.
and that. All right. Before we continue on with the last few items of PRH, I want to go back to Disney's Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. All hail the Pumpkin King. And to do that, we all have to hail somebody else. The incredible writer who is having a superstar year of amazing content, Joshua Pruitt.
Hi guys. Hey Matthias. Hey Kyle.
Hey, Josh, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, man. Thrilled to be here.
Man, you are having a year of it. I mean, like, we let's see. You had your incredible novel Euro come
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
You've had the return of Phineas and Ferb to Disney, as well as you had a Phineas and Ferb graphic novel come out through Paper Cuts. Let's see. I think you had a animated series on Netflix involving Stranger Things.
That's right. Stranger Things Tales from '85. Yeah, I was a writer on that show.
And then I think you have a new Doctor Who radio drama.
Yes. Unit Era's Hostile Universe, and there might even be one or two more this year. So
And
and
then we're going to do a follow-up to an incredible graphic novel giving us the early history of the Pumpkin King himself in Nightmare Before Christmas, All Hail the Pumpkin King.
that's it. It's right here. Yay. Look at that. Yay. Yeah, this is so exciting. This was like a huge dream come true for me. Andy Rogers, who I worked with on the Last Comics on Earth series, he's an editor over at TOKYOPOP and a friend, and they wanted to bring on somebody who kind of was used to wrangling and pivoting and dealing with notes from multiple licensees, and someone who could kind of handle that with creativity and not kind of get rankled by that process, which can be, laborious, I would say. But you've got a lot of people wanting to protect a brand like this and characters like these. And so I got recruited to write this prequel story that is about Jack's first Halloween as Pumpkin King. And, when I was like 15, Nightmare was like my entire personality. So getting the chance to kind of write these characters was a huge bucket list item for me.
Okay. So this is being pitched as a follow-up to the Battle for the Pumpkin King. Is that
That's right.
something you need to read, or are you good just having walked away from the beloved movie?
Yeah, I would say the latter, because I think the idea is, you want to be able to fit into continuity, and in a way though that it does not prohibit readers from jumping in. And so really I think all you need to know is that Boogie and Jack had a relationship, and that's clear from the film. And really we are picking up, a few years before the film. So I think if you went and got Battle for the Pumpkin King, it would certainly enrich this experience. But I think you can hop in just by being a Nightmare fan and get the chance to meet these characters at an earlier adventure.
All right. So who is working on this book with you?
So I'm blessed by Deborah Allo, who's an extraordinary artist. She did the first book, Battle of Pumpkin King. And then we're joined by Roberto Scalia, who is doing the colors. And as you can see, I mean, the stuff just really sings. One of my favorite things that I always point out to people, especially about this cover, is that, Deborah did this thing where she, gave Jack kind of short pants. He doesn't have his coat yet. And so he looks young, he looks like somebody who is just kind of growing into himself. And she did this adorable thing with Sally where she's got kind of pigtails. And he's not quite the Pumpkin King that we know and love yet, right? I think one of the interesting things about the original film is that we're coming into Jack's career late, right? He's literally kind of having a midlife crisis, and I think most people wouldn't define it that way. Certainly not in a quote unquote kids movie, but like we're meeting Jack late in his career. And this was an opportunity to be like, yeah, but what was he like when he was excited about this job? And so for me, that was the big opportunity, was like, we know he's a character who loves Halloween, but there was something missing for him in the film. And here was an opportunity to be like, hey, this is your first chance at bat. What are you going to do with it? What would Jack want to bring to it that made it special and interesting? And how is he going to rally all of the folks in Halloween Town to his vision? And so that really seemed like a story worth telling.
No, it's absolutely amazing, because you're right. I mean, we are so used to him being done with Halloween and being more excited to steal somebody else's holiday.
Exactly.
This is the holiday he was bred, he was born for.
That's right.
And, we get this epic. So all of this sounds amazing, but it sounds almost too easy. We know that Jack can be the Pumpkin King.
Yeah.
So what is our challenge that our hero is up against?
I think it comes down to a crisis of confidence. Is like how, if you have, and for me, it's as a creative person, it's like, when you're trying to share your ideas with others, not everyone's going to get on board with that idea. Other people have their own thoughts, have their own vision for what, in this case, Halloween could be like. And I think some of the journey that we wanted to get into is like, when you're young and you have lots of big ideas, what do you do with them? How do you manifest the things that you want to make real? What does that take? How do you rally others? How do you collaborate, right? These are things that are not easy to do, but when it works out, can be hugely advantageous and can be life-changing. And it's like, for me, working in animation, working in comics, it's like the collaboration is really the thing. Working with other talented people whom you respect, you're making something that is greater than the sum of its parts. And so on a deeper level, it's about, how is Jack going to recruit the people in Halloween Town to see what he sees? And that is going to be tough. That's going to be a tougher lift than he thought. And he's going to learn a little bit about himself and about those closest to him over these 5 issues.
All right, so this is a fun one. I got to point this out for anyone who doesn't know Josh. You've had, radio dramas that have come out on CD. You've had animated things that have come out on DVD and been on television. You've had prose novels. You've had graphic novels. You've had storybooks of all kinds. You even have a pop-up book. But this, long overdue, And it's not that it wasn't that you tried before. This is your first floppy comic book issue. How does that feel to finally have a traditional book that we can slab in a bag or slide into a bag and board?
It is such a milestone for me, Matthias, and I so appreciate you pointing this out, because I've been dreaming about this for years. And like, I was a comic fan since I was 8 or 9 years old, and it's like going to the spinner rack at 7-Eleven and like picking up comics. And Matthias and I have talked for years about how much Free Comic Book Day means to me and to you, and getting comics into kids' hands, and what an amazing gateway to reading that is, and gateway to worlds and characters, because of the shape and size of a comic book, right? A comic that you could put in your pocket, a comic you put in your backpack. Huge fan of graphic novels. I love all of it, right? All of these different ways to tell stories. But for me, a comic book is the perfect portable storytelling medium. It's easy to share with friends. It's easy to share with relatives. And so the idea of me actually having a real comic book that I got to write, that I can then share with other people and give to my nephews and share with my kids, it's a singular moment for me and my career. And the fact that it's the Nightmare Before Christmas, Matthias, is absolutely crazy. Like, if you had told the 15-year-old that this was coming down the pike, I would not have believed you. Not even a little bit, man.
I mean, and it's a weird thing because, as little as 10 years ago, there was pretty much nothing Nightmare.
Right.
At least in the way of new stories. It was something
That's
we
right.
always begged, like, is Tim Burton going to do a sequel or a prequel or anything?
Exactly.
But there wasn't prose novels and comics and graphic novels. Now we're in a plethora of them.
Yeah.
And every one of them amazing. And you can tell us firsthand, it's still, I imagine, heavily curated and controlled by Disney and Tim Burton.
Very much. And I think some of it is, at least in my experience, it's tone, right? What we're talking about is something that I think most of us would identify as, hey, it's a little bit on the darker side of Disney. And that's what people find really appealing about it, right? When we go to the park these days, if you're privileged to go to Disneyland or Disney World, it's like you've got so much wonderful Nightmare Before Christmas merchandise. Again, that if you had talked to Matthias about it when we were young guys, we would not really have believed that this was going to be in the future. So the fact that there's so many generations who've responded to this world and these characters, it makes sense that they would be protective. And so one of the things that I really prioritized was voice. And so what I did in kind of rewatching the movie again and again, and certainly it's in my head already as just a human being, is I look for opportunities for poetry in how the characters talk to each other, right? We can't do music in a comic book, right? Comics can do almost anything, but that's something that one day, right? We haven't figured that out yet. But I looked for opportunities where I could give Jack a certain poetry to his dialogue, and making sure that you're hitting the joke so it feels like something that could be in a Nightmare Before Christmas story. Especially those ancillary characters, because the kind of the folks that live in Halloween Town, they have kind of an edge to them. So it's, how do you negotiate that in 2026? And when you're working with the powers that be? And, that was a big challenge for me, but I think, I'm excited for people to see it and to read it, to see how that goes over for folks, because I think that that's part of the identity of Nightmare, is who is Sally and how does she interact with Jack, and how does Jack interact with Zero? I'll say that's one of the things that I'm really excited about is, Sally is certainly Jack's friend and becomes his best friend, but that relationship with Zero is really, really key, right? How does Zero look out for Jack, right? When Jack is all alone, Zero's there. He's not alone at all. So there are a lot of opportunities that I took with that relationship, to share what's in Jack's head, what he's struggling with, right? What's tough. And, going to the mayor for help, right? Going to the people in town for help. So I think one of the things that was key in this story was, how do we show Jack not at his best? What does he need? What does he need to be Pumpkin King? And being able to kind of brainstorm and come up with the answers to those questions and challenge Jack, and then see him rise to the occasion, that was so exciting. So exciting.
All right, and you named exactly where I was going with my next question. Some of the great characters in this: Jack, Sally, Zero, the mayor. I gotta ask, who is a character outside of the main figures you knew had to be in there that you pushed in there? Who is a character that you're like, I gotta have this character in my story?
Oh, so the oh man, there were a couple actually. There's the thing under the stairs that I tried to make sure we got at least a little bit in there. Certainly, but Lock, Shock, and Barrel, I gotta say, like, you can't do these stories without them, and in my opinion, and certainly they feature in the previous book. But I was able to kind of come up with some new things for them to do that felt in universe, but we've never seen them do this before. And so there's a handful of things like that were really fun. And same thing with voice, right? It's for Lock, Shock, and Barrel, one of the things that they did in the screenplay by Caroline Thompson, but also in the lyrics from Danny Elfman, is they would full sentences were split up between those three characters. So one of the things that really mattered to me was being able to split up their dialogue in a similar way so that you could hear their voices in your head as you're reading. But they were huge and for me, and they're younger in this. And that's one of the other fun things is that they're kind of like toddlers, which in my mind means they're even more unhinged than they normally are. So that was a huge opportunity, and I grabbed that with both hands.
See, and this is the brilliance of a writer like you who has just masterfully went from medium to medium, is just getting to see that insider look of how you're approaching writing these things.
Oh, it was so much fun, man. So much fun.
Okay, so here's the hard question. This is going to be single issues, which I think we're all excited about. At $5 a piece, this is an easy pickup, and it's going to be great.
Agreed.
But the question is going to be, how many issues? As this is going to be one of the first times TOKYOPOP has done single issues, especially on such a big property.
So we got 5. I'm thrilled. I mean, I wasn't sure going in exactly where we were going to land. And certainly there's a lot of excitement about trade. Trade paperback's going to come out next year. But 5 issues at 22 pages each, we get a full story. We get to tell a full story. And really like see Jack at a lower ebb and then see him build back up from that. And so that was really exciting for me just as a storyteller, is to be able to look at kind of that 3 to 5 act structure and be like, oh, like, what kind of big adventure is going to be at that midpoint that's going to knock our characters down? And really looking at it in these chapter breaks and taking those turns seriously, right? Because you want to be able to pull people in the next month. And so I was really cognizant of that, because I want this to be something that somebody reads, in July, and they go, oh, I can't wait for issue 2. Right. And I think that's really the opportunity with a monthly book. When we're doing a floppy, it's like you want to make sure that you're bringing people back again and again. And so getting to do these 5 issues was a gift, really, because it could have been 3, it could have been 4, but 5 issues felt like it's going to shape up to be a good sized trade, but it's also going to allow us to tell a meaty story. And I think that's what we've done, and I hope that people agree.
I love it. And I mean, it looks like it's got a solid schedule with issue number 1 dropping July 15th, issue number 2, August 19th, and issue number 3, we don't have to wait as long, September 9th. I am looking forward to this. This should be a nice, quick release that has you waiting from issue to issue.
Yeah.
So the defining question, in my opinion, I got to ask every Nightmare Before Christmas fan, because it says so much about you as an individual. What's your number 1 Nightmare Before Christmas song?
It's Jack's Lament.
Oh,
because just the idea of getting into his head, right? Like there's nothing more exhilarating than the opening, right? But the idea of so quickly to go, oh my gosh, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to live in Halloween Town. And then immediate be like, oh no, this guy's struggling. What's going on? Like Like, that was the coolest show I've ever seen. He's not into it anymore, right? It's such a wonderfully shocking left turn when you're watching that story, especially for the first time. But I think one of the many brilliant things about this movie, but specifically the world and the characters, is kind of the work that Danny Elfman did, where the songs are indeed telling the story, and it's much more like an opera or an operetta. And so it's like getting into this beautifully designed and unique character so quickly, getting into his head and what he's struggling with. I mean, it's life-changing. It was a life-changing kind of moment in a watershed movie.
I love it. And now I'm certain all of you are going to be reaching out to your local comic shop to pre-order Disney's Tim Burton's. It's got a lot of load up in that title. Nightmare Before Christmas, All Hail the Pumpkin King #1 before FOC's June 1st on Monday. And I'm sure you're all doing that because you're hooked and how excited Josh is with this. But this isn't the only license Josh has done this brilliantly with. You recently had The Last Comics on Earth Across the Doodleverse drop April 28th.
Yeah.
If anybody missed this, can you give them the heads up on what this is and why they need to go reach out to their local comic shop? Because it's still available for order through Penguin Random House.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mathias. This is the 4th Last Comics on Earth book. So there's all 4 of them now out in the world. And this is a official spin-off of the Last Kids on Earth series, which is written by Max Brallier and illustrated by Doug Holgate. And I had the opportunity to work on the animated series over at Netflix. I wrote 4 episodes. And while I was on that show, made friends with Max, and we really hit it off. And, we have similar sensibilities. And so when there was an opportunity to spin off those characters, Max invited me in, and we created this kind of funky spin-off where we realized that in the world of The Last Kids on Earth, where it's literally 4 kids are left, we've got a world of zombies and monsters. It's pretty much Evil Dead for kids, right? What an amazing thing. And there's no more comics. And Max did this cool thing where they have a comic shop in the world of the show and the book series called Comically Speaking. And it occurred to us as we were brainstorming is that there'd be no new comics. And my recollection as an 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old is that you make your own comics, right? If you can't get to the comic shop, you hang out with your friends, you make your own books. And so the idea is that's what this is. That's what the Last Comics on Earth are. There are 4 main characters from the Last Kids series, and they are writing and drawing their own outrageous comic. And in Across the Doodleverse, we actually get into a character, a villain, who uses kids' doodles as weapons, bringing them to life, creating a doodle army, and it's our heroes have to go into the Doodleverse in order to stop him. And it's really, a celebration of being those kids like we all were, doodling on our math paper before the teacher threw it out, and then retrieving that drawing at the end of the day from the trash can. And there is a special kind of joy in drawing with your friends and making things with your friends. And kind of where Max and I and Jay Cooper, our illustrator and collaborator, our partner in crime, and Doug Holgate wanted to be for the last book was to celebrate what we were doing. Is that for 4 books, we got to make comics together like we did when we were 10 years old. And that's the kind of gift that we want to give back to young kids who are reading comics these days.
I love it. And all 4 hardcovers and softcovers currently still available through Penguin Random House. So grab that along with the book that, in my opinion, launched this year for you. The new original graphic novel set in the Phineas and Ferb universe. The Amazing Creature double feature. Now, this isn't your first horror tale with Phineas and Ferb.
No, it's not. No. And co-writer Scott Peterson and I have done quite a bit of the scarier episodes of Phineas and Ferb. We built the initial story for Night of the Living Pharmacist from the classic series. It's the first time Scott and I worked together. But this graphic novel was so exciting because it's the first Phineas graphic novel in history. there were comics that were done years ago, primarily by Scott, over 100 shorts. And those are now being reprinted by Paper Cuts and Mad Cave. But this one is totally original. 2 40-page stories. I wrote one. Scott wrote one. And, the art looks like the show. And it's got the same sense of imagination that the series does. But the big idea here is that we've got no budget restrictions. Scott and I and our artistic team have a chance to do anything and everything. And if there's any TV show that kind of celebrates that sort of imagination, it's this one. And hopefully we've got a couple more coming down the road here, and that people really love to see these characters in print in comics. But I can say that it's something that Dan and Swampy were really excited about. And just having, again, getting comics into kids' hands, and to be able to have characters and worlds that they recognize when they go to the comic shop was a really big deal for Scott and I and the team.
Yeah. And I got to say, it is an amazing thing. I discovered Phineas and Ferb through my son watching the cartoon, but I have, friends in their 40s and 50s that are obsessed with this just as much as I know kids that adore it. So if you or someone is in that in between of you're so happy Phineas and Ferb came back with a new season and you're waiting for that big movie, you're in the in between, this is the book you have to add to your collection. It is available in hardcover and softcover. It is through Lunar distribution if you are a comic shop ordering it. And you got the hint right there. Josh kind of dropped it. There could be more coming up.
Yeah. And we might know more about that soon, gang.
Okay. So before we let you go, Josh, is there anything else? I mean, I know that you have a lot more writing that has been written. Is there anything else more that you can hint is coming up on the way?
Yes, actually. What I will share is there might be some worlds and characters in the galaxy far, far away coming very, very soon. So please stay tuned for that. And we might know more about that after Comic-Con.
Okay. So if people want to find out more about that, as well as anything else that you are currently working on, where can they track you down online so they can keep an eye about news from some kind of galaxy far, far away?
The best thing would be to follow me on Instagram. I'm at Zombie TARDIS, ZOMBIE TARDIS. That's usually where I share the most. And then also on Facebook, on facebook.com/Go Pruitt, GOPRUETT. And yeah, there's going to be lots of fun things coming up this summer, and absolutely more comics. And hopefully here pretty soon, we're going to get the chance to see the cover for issue 2 of Nightmare Before Christmas as well. So yeah, just very excited to kind of see all these things kind of roll out. And, as you and Kyle are well aware, these things take such a long time. And certainly, people have I'm writing these things a year ago or more. And so the idea that they're finally getting out into the public, I've been sitting on my hands and absolutely thrilled and excited for these things to come to fruition. So it's an exciting time.
I love it. I'm so excited to read the new Nightmare Before Christmas as somebody who is obsessed with it, whose wife owns like every Nightmare Before Christmas item ever created. We will be reading this the day, like within seconds of release, if not days or two before. So I'm looking forward to this. I know everyone watching is. I expect this to be the biggest thing we're upping everyone's orders on for FOC.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it so much, Mathias, and thank you, Kyle.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Josh. All right, guys. That I am so hyped. More Nightmare Before Christmas. Like, this has just been a great era for Tim Burton fans and particularly Nightmare fans. So this is going to be awesome. Okay, let's pop back. I didn't know. I thought Kyle was going to, go into some Nightmare love, maybe bust into a song.
No, I was going to just make a joke about good merchandising for Hot Topic, but
there you go. Yeah. All right, so let's wrap up PRH with our last 4 items on there. What if Secret Wars, where Alex Packnadell, who we love and adore, is going to tell us what would have happened if the Ultimate Universe was the universe that survived the Secret Wars of Jonathan Hickman and Doctor Doom. I mean, I don't think you need to say much more. I think that's going to be exciting and interesting, especially as we come to the wrap-up of the Ultimate Universe once more. Then, superstar actor, the man behind Firefly, Serenity, I want to say Bones. I'm really bad at this. My wife knows everything Nathan Fillion's ever been in. I'm going to lean on you on this, Kyle.
Castle,
that was it. Castle, not Bones.
the Rookie,
And then he's in, what is it, The Rookie?
Dr. Horrible sing-along blog, one episode of The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, and what was it? Now he has Witness Point, a brand new comic series from Dark Horse. He is writing with Heath Corson and art by the beloved Sue Lee. Sue Lee did one of my favorite recent graphic novels, Camilla the Vampire. This is going to be an out there one. It's very much a comic that I feel Nathan Fillion could act in an inevitable TV show or film for. But Witness Point tells the tale of a small town in Oregon where all of the witnesses in hiding are placed. Now, as you can imagine, if you're living in a small town where all these people are, that's a high risk of criminal activity from people that may not be ideal neighbors. As a new sheriff is brought into that town to deal with this, they quickly become, well, let's say they lose their head over the position. And that's just the start of it. The big thing here is it's Nathan Fillion, a superstar actor we all love and adore, especially with news that he's trying to bring back the crew to start a brand new Firefly animated series. A new comic from him definitely has our attention. In a much lighter note, how about more cat manga? There can never be too much cat manga. Wonder Cats not only gets all that cat fun, there's even a little axolotl in there. A cute collection of new art and stories from Sasami Nitori filled with absolutely lovable little puffballs. I mean, any feline fan is going to need this. X-Men United. Look, sometimes life can be a little hard for the Iceman. And Bobby has tried his best to bring the team together. X-Men United 5 continues on that tale, and it features this stunning cover by Megan Hedrick I just had to display, so I was reaching for anything I could say about this to just show off this beloved piece of artwork with some of the best X-ladies out there. Let's wrap up PRH with a brand new Zorro. And the interesting thing is, Dan Abnett is back, but Zorro is not. This is not Murrieta. This is not the classic rapier-wielding, whip-slashing hero of Mexican history. This is his descendant. Set in modern-day Los Angeles, our hero finds out he's of the bloodline of the legendary Zorro. And he realizes he has to live up to that legacy and become a modern-day vigilante in Los Angeles. Joining Dan Abnett is Aaron Lepestre, an artist who definitely knows how to do amazing tales of fantasy and modern tale storytelling. I can tell you because I have a pile of his artwork literally on the other side of this camera. I am beyond excited for this. This is the second Zorro series coming out from IDW and Alien Books, and I'm really curious to watch this develop. Some awesome covers here, but this is a fun take. I mean, I've seen Zorro in different timelines, but a modern day Zorro telling that isn't just Don Murrieta, but one of his descendants. There's a lot to be had here. I don't know how to judge it, but it has my attention to give it a shot. All right. With that all said, and some great covers to show off, I think it's time we pop on over to Lunar Distribution. to go over some of the incredible books there. So I want to remind everyone, if you want to see what's on Lunar Distribution, all those great DC, Image, Dynamite, Oni, and more, lunardistribution.com. You'll be on this website. You'll scroll on down a little bit to upcoming FOC. Make sure you're on the right date. June 1st. And right off the bat, we get a HarperCollins graphic novel on the legendary piece, George Orwell's 1984, getting a new adaptation. We get a ton of new Rebellion books as we get a month's worth of 2000 AD, including the new 2026 annual, which is going to feature not only Judge Dredd and Judge Death, but our Strodium hero, Stronium Dog. I screwed up saying that so badly, we're just going to push past it. As we get ready for the summer, Udon is preparing us with some amazing swimsuit specials. Shantae comes back with a new swimsuit special, and the Heroes of Street Fighter, with a new movie coming out this year, get some delightful swimsuit covers as well. We have a ton of continuing series. The finale to Absolute Martian Manhunter, trade paperback and hardcover, on FOC this week. Not to mention a lot of other absolute fun you absolutely already know you need to order with your shop. Bookmarks, facsimiles of Avengers JLA, and look, I love George Perez art. Don't get me wrong. There's a reason why I own all of the original Avengers JLA and JLA Avengers. But Dan Mora giving us his best of Marvel and DC on a cover to the facsimile. I spoke ill of facsimiles last week in how I really think that they're being overproduced and they're not choosing the most ideal items. But damn, I'm all in on this, let's be honest, reprint of Avengers JLA with a beautiful new Dan Mora cover. And this is what I want to see when I get reprints. New artwork. Kyle, you weren't with me last week for that conversation, were you? I want to say that was Jay.
Yeah, but I heard it.
Okay, so where is your quick take, if I was to get a quick take from you on this whole facsimile vice reprint idea?
I'm tired of facsimiles. I'm tired of reprints.
Okay.
I'm someone who most of their business is selling old comics. If you keep printing them, never get old.
That's true.
It's I think it's great when you can take a book like GSX #1 or something that, again, most folks are never going to be able to buy, and do a reprint, or again, if you do a straight facsimile of it. I think that's great. But when we're reprinting books that are easily available, they're just maybe a little expensive or a little hard to find, you're diluting what your IP is. You're wasting people's time.
Very true. I don't disagree with anything you said.
I can't wait for the Absolute Batman #20 facsimile in 2 weeks.
But see, at least that they're still using the word reprint. But yes, I agree.
No, they're going to call it a facsimile. Trust me.
All right. I got to give a quick shout out to Bizarro Year None. It was a bit of a delay, but issue 2 is finally on FOC, so you can read more of Kevin Smith's take on Bizarro. And then an interesting new concept from Mad Cave, a 5-issue miniseries called Bloodwire, tells of 2 robots that were originally designated as sex bots, having a Thelma and Louise, did I get that right? Thelma and Louise?
Mm-hmm.
Esque story, as they must run for their lives to try and be anything but what they were created for. Paul Allure writing this with Armandus Blanco. This is an interesting sounding concept. Sex bots that want to escape their original construction purpose to try and, be mercenaries of sorts. Then Bruce Wayne, not super. This is a fun-looking, all-ages Batman graphic novel that reminds us all, look, he's the one without superpowers. And while we're so used to him still always being the badass of the Justice League that even Superman has to tighten up a little bit around, this is going to take a unique twist. So if you're looking for a fun all ages book, something for the odd kid in your life or the person who just loves a little bit of all ages sequential art, this one looks to be really, really fun. From the creator of the Spy School comic series, Stuart Gibbs doing this one. All right. A lot of fun new Conan from both Conan and Dragon. Corpse Knight continuing on. It's a lot of great continuing series. There are some amazing art books, especially if you're a Bruno Redondo fan. There's a Bruno Redondo art book with a direct market exclusive variant from Clover. And if you're like, hey, I love Bruno Redondo, but I specifically just want Nightwing, there is a Nightwing exclusive art book that is a great companion or a more affordable art book. If you're like me and you just love Dick, that one is just his Nightwing covers for $45. There's even some print options. You can get a traditional Bruno Redondo print set or a Nightwing print set. I know which one I'm going for again. So a lot of fun if you love Bruno Redondo. Then Vault is bringing us Dead Acre. And this one has me very, very interested because as far as I can tell, this is just single issues of the graphic novel Vault released not to the direct market last fall, but it ties in to the incredible Black Badge prose novel series. Black Badge, done by Rhett Bruno and Jamie Castle, is a paranormal Western series that has been getting all sorts of attention, winning all sorts of awards. And Dead Acre was an Audible original, meaning it was originally only an audio book that later got a prose adaptation and now has a comic adaptation. It is being adapted from comics by Cullen Bunn and Riley Brown, which has my attention because they're great creators. And the thing that's going to get Kyle's attention is there's even a quote from Dungeon Crawler Carl's own Matt Dinneman, defining it as a gritty supernatural Western tale that ain't for wimps, completely badass. So I don't think there's enough cowboy comics out there. Then you throw in the great paranormal aspect. It has my attention. I'm going after it. I think it'll be fun, but just keep an eye. If you already own the graphic novel, you might already have these stories in a collected edition, which is interesting. Rare that you see the graphic novel released before the single issues. Whew. Again, a lot of great continuing series going on. Speaking of facsimiles versus reprints, we're getting a wonderful reprint for its anniversary of Love Bunny and Mr. Hell, Tim Seeley's awesome combo of heroes before he was bringing us Hack Slash. We not only get a remastered cover with the Marvel anniversary style frame, but brand new covers by Ignacio Noe. And of course, and keep in mind, this is a ratio variant, so talk to your store about whether or not they're getting it and what the price will be. Svetlana Shubina. But these Svetlana Shubina covers across the industry and multiple publishers are all big aftermarket items. So keep in mind, this might be a pricey one. A lot of signed Dynamic Forces and graded Dynamic Forces options. If you like those, make sure you check out Lunar Distribution for them. We have a brand new Bad Idea that we talked to the incredible Robert Venditti about a few weeks back called Dingoliath, about a creepy monster done by Mannix Abrera in his Mannix Monsterverse. Fun little one-shot that could give us some haunting tales and good comedy. Wonderful all-ages book I have to bring to attention, Science in Comics, using our beloved characters from Nemo, the Pixar films. Some really, really cool enamel pins for Doctor Who. New printings of Dork, final issue of Escape, and then a weird one. This is perhaps the most innovative and odd comic I have seen solicited in ages. Eye Collector is something altogether different. I really don't know how to describe it. And I've already read the entire first year. The first 12 issues of this book are already in the can, written and drawn. and I had the honor of reading them. And I don't know how to describe this to you. Jonathan Ball puts together a very unique series. Every one of these comics reads incredibly quick for a 24-page story. They are haunting. They can be a little confusing, and they are very dark. And they're unlike anything I've ever read in comics. They break traditional norms of sequential art storytelling as we deal with the Man on the Moon, a monster-like paranormal-esque sci-fi figure that can give you what you want. And what he wants is eyeballs. It is a trippy tale. And again, I cannot stress enough, I don't know how to describe it. Each issue feels like you could read it in under 3 minutes, and I probably did, even though I reread them over and over again to extensive length. And they give you a haunt. Like, I guess this is more of a vibe than a story. They give you like the feels. But 12 issues in, I couldn't tell you what's really happening. Nevertheless, it is getting a lot of great conversation from big comic creators like Scott Snyder saying they love and adore this. This is an out there weird book I feel you have to pick up to understand. And it is not going to be for everyone, but the people who love it are going to think it is the best thing on comic stands. And it's such a weird thing to describe. I don't know, Kyle, did you get a chance to look through this at all?
I didn't.
Okay. I can't describe it. It is so out there. I've read 12
it's on my
issues.
It's on my list, but it's one of those that like I'm actively considering just saying, hey, when the trade comes out, let me get that.
Yeah. I will say this. One of my favorite things about all 12 issues I've read is they have back matter. They have every single issue has a little essay written by Jonathan Ball talking about contents and things like that. And it is amazing. And often we unfortunately lack back matter in the collected editions and trade paperbacks of comics. So that's another thing that I will say is a pro towards picking up single issues, and particularly these single issues. But again, this is an oddball comic. And if oddball comics are your thing, this is a must. But I cannot compare this to anything. It is trippy. The artwork is crazy mixed media. It is very punk rock, horror, sci-fi, and I just don't know. I don't know that there's anyone out there that could truly describe this. So I'm very curious to hear everyone's take when this releases on June 24th. But this is, if you want to see experimental sequential artwork, this is the book. But this is a trip. Ton of great covers on it, I will say. A lot of great continuing series. As always, make sure you check out lunardistribution.com. Scan through them all. Let your local comic shop know what you want. Get incredible graphic novels like Garlic and the Vampire, another great HarperCollins book finally coming to your local comic shop through Lunar Distribution. We're getting a large amount of Golden Age classic reprints, which are a little pricey, but amazing reprints of classic stories. Gun Honey #2, we have to place orders before issue #1 is on FOC. There's a lot more covers that you will be seeing next week when issue #2 properly FOCs, but the foil options are available now. More Hank Howard Pizza Detective from Rob Venditti and David Lapham. Some of my favorite covers on Harley Quinn, which sadly none made it to the top 10, but they're all worth looking at, including a new Harley Quinn statue based on Alex Garner's incredible artwork. One I have to take a moment to talk about, Hornsby and Halo #14. We talked about the $1 Trillion Kid last year. If that excited you, or last week, and if that excited you, you're going to want this. This is part 2 of the Unbelievables, the not miniseries, the 4-part event crossing over between $1 Trillion Kid 1 and 2, Hornsby and Halo, and the Rockefellers. It's going to introduce a new character. It's going to continue all that fun. And if you have been sleeping on Hornsby and Halo, this is a perfect jumping on point that will introduce the wonderful concept of Ghost Machine's Unbelievables to you. So really fun one, and a great all ages book. I do love this. It's very much like Jack Kirby New Gods-esque in all ages modern sequential artwork. Whew. For those of you guys who've been missing out, Invincible Universe Capes. It's new stories in the Invincible Universe. Reprints are out now, including that first appearance of Elemental, the new character by Robert Kirkman and Corey Walker, that ties into the Invincible video game Versus. So much to go on. Like, it's just crazy. Statues, pins, keychains, some beautiful, beautiful covers on Justice League Unlimited. I mean,
yeah, the Dream Girls one, man.
Yeah. Matthew Rosenberg's awesome King Spawn. More Zootopia in English and in Spanish now. An odd one I got really excited about. The Last Starfighter movie adaptation, that classic 1980s 3-issue miniseries from Bill Mantlo, is getting a collection from Mad Cave with a brand new cover. I will always love that movie, and even though I own the original issues from Marvel, I'll rebuy this so I can flip through it easier, and I get a new cover. And we also, let's see, I mean, we've got so many crazy things coming on this. Definitely a reason to check out Lunar Distribution. Definitely makes me wish that I could tab these things easier like I do with PRH. But
we'll jump ahead. Mark Spears Monsters, number 11, comes out July 1st. So just before the 4th of July, America 250. And we've got some really Americana covers for this book.
A little bit of Uncle Sam.
But Jaws.
2 separate Jaws covers. Yeah.
Right. Like, does it get more Americana than you should be afraid to go into water? Like, let's be real. But yeah, you got Uncle Sam as well. So I think, again, if you're not reading Mark Spears Monsters, but you're looking for a way to kind of have your America 250 comic book collection kind of thing, that might be a good place to pick something up.
There you go. And then equally exciting for young readers who want a unique take on Agatha Harkness and Wanda Maximoff. How about them going to a Harry Potter school, a magic school, done by the incredible folks over at Scholastic? We have a Scarlet Witch graphic novel, House of Harkness, that is going to be nothing like anything in the 616 universe, but could be a fun way of entering in, especially for people who liked those the WandaVision TV series. But again, a lot of great books. Some things we'll be talking about in our top 10, like NSFW, which is the Nubel Strike Force West. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to our top 10. Reprints of Odin, if you missed out on that, because I know a lot of stores are sold out. And then Prophets of Doom. Prophets of Doom, I got to take a moment to talk about, in crazy new 4-issue miniseries from Joseph Schmalke, where, let's face it, what if your local pastor just can't get enough butts in the pews at his church sermons? Well, what if a group of pastors came together and summoned demons to invade hell and start the apocalypse just so people came back to church? That is actually the crazy Suicide Squad-esque tale of Prophets of Doom. And I wouldn't put it past the world we live in now for it to happen. Crazy, goofy idea. Joseph Schmalke, who's great at these type of things. What a weird concept, and definitely has my attention. So Prophets of Doom, a fun one to keep an eye on. Lots of PS art books. Lots and lots of PS art books as we go through. Lots of continuing tales. The return of The Curse of Shirley Johnson, long overdue. New magazine in that Vampirella-esque style, Mike Hoffman's Squid Girl magazine. Summer of Supergirl, an incredible one-shot that's going to have Supergirl once again paired up with Lobo and Crush, and all sorts of great tales from Sophie Campbell, Mark Waid, and Gail Simone. Perfectly timed with the movie on its way. We have Superman 39, which is going to be amazing because it breaks the fourth wall in the best way, because Superman, or Superboy Prime rather, is actually a comic fan like all of us. He is a Wednesday warrior, apparently, and he's going to get dragged through the fourth wall and the panel breaks of the gutters into DC comics he's never read before. This has my attention. I am all for this. Joshua Williamson is a big comic fan, so I want to see him break this all. This looks amazing. We get a reprint of Swamp Thing 88, as we get to see Swamp Thing move the stone to free Jesus on Easter Day. Not to mention the continuation of all of that fun. Matthew Price's Team America Racing. If you weren't reading it in comic shop news, now you can read it in traditional comic form. It's an awesome one-shot, 48 pages. Matthew Price, a great comic retailer and comic writer. Make sure you grab this awesome Howard Chaykin cover or other covers available. Three Stooges getting a new one-shot. We have so much fun. New Unico, new Vampirella. And finally, more White Sky. Long gap between issue 3 and 4. Some stunning covers on Wonder Woman. But if we're going to talk stunning covers, I think it's time we just cut to the top 10. Kyle, you want to take it away from me? All right. First up, our honorable mention, of course, School Bus Graveyard. It's a webtoons that has massive following, so if you haven't been reading it there or you want a physical copy, this is a great one for all ages. Then, in spot number 10, it's there for its cover because we don't get enough Gwenpool. Wade Wilson, Deadpool, number 6, the In-Hyuk Lee cover. There's actually also another Gwenpool cover on this issue, so if you've been dying for more Gwenpool, show Marvel you care about her and order those two covers. Nightwing 87. Yes, Nightwing 87 takes the classic Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo book and makes it the way it was always meant to be. This was one continuous panel over the entire length of the book, and now you can get it as a fold-out comic in hardcover form. It's pricey, but you get to read it the way it was meant to be without chopping your comic up and gluing all the pieces together. I am beyond hyped for this. Spot 8, the new Zorro Legacy, and I got to give it to the Aaron Lepestre cover because Aaron's doing the interiors, and therefore I want to give him my cover love too. I'm curious. I want to see L.A. descendant of Don Murrieta. It's going to be great. Superman 39, Chris Burnham does the moment that I've watched too many friends and customers deal with, is sometimes it's just hard to put together a long box or perhaps take it apart in this case. But I love this. We even get to see the first appearance of Superboy Prime in DC Comics Presents 87 in the small part of the bottom of that cover. This is awesome, and everything I want for the meta, fourth wall, panel breaking, just gutter thrashing tale that this is going to be. Witness Point is number 6 with Nathan Fillion. Yes, the actor Nathan Fillion writing this awesome new miniseries. I'm in. Now we get to the big ones, the top 5. We just got to have the incredible Joshua Pruitt talking about this. I'm certain every one of you listening is going to go to your local comic shop and place an order for Nightmare Before Christmas. All Hail the Pumpkin King, number 1. First part of a 5-issue tale telling us all Jack Skellington's first Halloween. The Rocketeer Infiltrator. I have to give it to the Gabriel Hardman cover because he is always a brilliant artist, but I'm excited about Kyle Hott's unbelievable interiors on this. Let's face it. I mean, the Rocketeer dead in Nazi Germany to blow up their secret weapon. Rocketeer. Then in number 3, it's NSF West. NSF West was originally a Kickstarter, but it amazingly only had 150 backers. This is the book for people who hate like naughty comics or love naughty comics. It kind of goes both because it is a self-parodying, mocking book about those naughty books while giving a large knock towards the G.I. Joe fandom. This is fun, over-the-top ridiculousness. that I think is so amusing. And I love that this can now be in comic shops at a very affordable entry price of just $5 to $6 a book. The Ryan Brown cover that really kind of gets the parody of it all right there. Look, I mean, if you missed out on the Kickstarter, this is a much more affordable way. This is going to be a great way to read it as an actual miniseries. Stock it in your comic shop. I don't think too many people, I can tell you, literally at less than 155 people backed this Kickstarter. So there's a large audience for this, and great for people who were fans of The Boys and other goofy over-the-top comics. Then we get Foundations, the start of something huge. This is the foundation of the Three Worlds, Three Moons universe of comics from Jonathan Hickman and Nick Spencer. Easy to go one shot that will give you the taste of whether or not you're hooked for the rest of it. And then the big one, the number one, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 300, aka issue 20. This is the blind bag to have. You're not going to get any of those A, B, or C covers in this. It's going to be alternate virgin full art covers, top tier artists, Frank Miller, J. Scott Campbell, and more. Exclusive covers by Ferreira, Santoloco, and Ito in this bag. Campbell pencils. You're going to get those big ratios that you want, the things that make you feel like you won something when you open a blind bag. And it's all for the exact same price as the regular covers. No reason not to go this. I've literally already been getting messages from my customers, some of you guys that are watching, requesting multiple copies of this blind bag, and I know you guys aren't going to be alone. I know I'm probably in for a minimum of a dozen, and knowing my addiction to gambling, I might go for 20 or 30. Kyle, I think you're in for a huge amount too, right? That sounds like too many to count. He doesn't want to say how many he's getting on air. All right, so those are our...
Okay, I'm back. I have to get the 1 in 1,000.
Yeah, you got to earn that 1 in 1,000. You want that book. Oh, okay. So those are the books on FOC this Monday, June 1st. Start your June off hard with a great order at your local comic shop. Give them your love and support so you'll have an amazing June and July filled with awesome comics. Kyle, what else do we have on the EXP today?
Well, later on today, we actually have The Godfather, Spencer Beck, filling in for Nick on the original art show, as Nick makes his way back from licensing show and gets caught up on some other things that are, fall out from new licensed IP there at the Dynamite. And then we'll have Nancy McCann with her Friday Night Live show, as always. Then next week, we have all of our new shows, including someone who was here earlier, Mad Prophet Comics, Aggressive Positivity, from Mad Prophet Comics with Tommy Donovan, and his new host, Paul from AA Comics in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. And then we have Blake's Buzz on Wednesdays, the only show that features hot dogs primarily in the comic book space. But I also want to mention this. It's a thing that we're doing, and you'll find out more later. That's that. So
It's so cool to see that. I will say, I'm in a group chat with a couple of people of sales and retail and all that, in comics. They were talking about comic influencers, and I give it this. We're doing a podcast and all that. But when it comes to comic influencers, there's two that I think are really strong. It is Blake of Blake's Buzz, and it's Tommy Donovan. Forget everyone else. Watch their shows. Their opinions are cool.
Right. Absolutely. And again, the EXP has a ton of stuff coming, a ton of stuff happening, a ton of things in the works. That's why sometimes, when we're doing this show, people are blowing me up because, we've got to make an announcement tonight on Nick's show and they need approval. And it's like, but I'm on there. Anyway, guys, stay tuned. There's always something happening.
All right. Thank you guys all. Get your orders into your local comic shop. The sooner the better. We'll be back next Friday with some more amazing guests. Ooh, a handful of them. This is going to be fun. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and get your orders to your LCS.